Hey there, I'm Trevor, and this is part 2 to my first ever Five Nights at Freddy's theory, also known as my second ever theory. In this video, I will once again be talking about the Funtime animatronics and their role in William Afton's experiments. I'll be working off the conclusions from my last theory, so if you haven't seen it, you really should check it out first. Before we begin, I feel like I need to thank you all for the support on the last video. It got a lot of attention, both positive and negative, which I'm very thankful for either way. I loved the opportunity to chat with you all in the comments. Some of you even added on to my theory, which was awesome. Anyway, that's enough about the past. Let's jump right into this theory. Last time I briefly touched on the topic of the nightmare chambers we see in FNAF's sister location, and how I believe the Funtime animatronics were designed to kidnap children to prepare them for the experiments. In this video, I want to go more in depth into the nightmare experiments themselves, or as I like to call them, the agony experiments. So how am I able to connect the Funtime animatronics to the agony chambers beyond just kidnapping the test subjects? Well, I believe there is another extremely important role that the Funtimes played in the experiments. I believe the Funtimes are the true identities behind the nightmare animatronics. That's right, I'm digging up this old theory. Although I'm not convinced that this thing right here is a sound illusion disc. I'm partial to the idea of hallucinogenic gas myself, but the method doesn't change much either way. The kids were seeing things that weren't there, or more accurately, they were seeing things not as they truly were. If the Funtimes are what William used in the agony experiments, then there has to be some kind of evidence for this, right? Just like last time, we need to look at the blueprints. Most of the features listed for each animatronic are related to kidnapping. Why William listed these incriminating features here, I cannot fathom. The point is, the blueprints show us features centered around their core purpose: kidnapping kiddos. But if you go through the lists, there are a few bullet points that stand out. These features don't have an immediately clear purpose, and they don't seem to be related to kidnapping at all. But if we examine them with the idea that they are the nightmares, connections begin to form. So let's go over these one at a time. Funtime Foxy. Bullet point D, remote floor anchor. In FNAF 4, Nightmare Foxy will start in the hallway. Once he sneaks past you, he will be anchored to the floor in the closet for the remainder of the night. Ballora. Bullet point B, deter and misdirect. In FNAF 4, there is one animatronic that serves as more of a distraction to provide openings for the other animatronics. That would be Nightmare Freddy. He also has his little Freddles with him, which remind me a lot of another animatronic's miniature minions. Funtime Freddy. Okay, everything listed here is designed for kidnapping. But if we take a more direct approach and simply look at him and our two remaining core animatronics, for reasons I will discuss in a moment, it's clear that he has to be Nightmare Bonnie. Plus, he has a Bonnie puppet, so it isn't entirely due to process of elimination. Speaking of Bonbon, why did Scott make him into a puppet? Where else do we see a Bonnie puppet that jump scares the player, and is about the same size? That's right, Bonbon is a perfect match for Plushtrap. They're both even deterred with flashlights. Let me tell you, this is where my mind blew wide open. Unlike a certain stupid box. Funtime Chica. No, Funtime Chica isn't in sister location, nor does she have a blueprint, but we do know she exists and was rented out during the events of the game, most likely gathering a child subject. So she's most certainly part of the experiments, and there's only one spot that makes sense for her: Nightmare Chica. Something we only see in FNAF 4 is the cupcake attacking the player. Although we never see this happen with the Funtime cupcake, I mean, look at that thing. Given the opportunity, it's definitely gonna get you. Even some of the features related to kidnapping can apply to the experiments as well, such as voice mimicking and light detection. Not everything applies, and that's okay, because the Funtimes have multiple uses. Some of their features are designed for kidnapping, some are for the agony chambers, and others overlap. Like I said before, the blueprints do not provide us with a full list of each animatronic's capabilities, but I believe it was always the intention for the Funtimes to be the true faces behind the nightmares. I know this sounds insane, and I'll admit this is mostly speculation, but if I haven't lost you yet, just wait because it gets even crazier. I have intentionally left Circus Baby out of this until now, and that is because she has a much more important role in all of this. Although she isn't directly tied to any of the nightmares, and her blueprint tells us almost nothing about her functions, she is most certainly a part of the agony experiments. She is the mastermind. Circus Baby has very advanced programming. This can be seen all throughout Sister Location in the way she talks and acts. This could be due to a certain program, but who knows. However, the rest of the animatronics aren't nearly as methodical as she is. Apart from maybe Ballora, but Baby even acts as if she's above Ballora.
Ballora never learns, but I do.
So what do I mean when I say Circus Baby is the mastermind? I mean, she is playing reverse Five Nights at Freddy's. Seriously, look again at the blueprints. Boxy's floor anchor and Ballora's deter and misdirect both have this strange subtext that refers to Circus Baby as if she somehow links them all together, as if she's the one in control of them. Side note, I just want to remind you that this is all in the context of the agony chambers. In Sister Location, the animatronics are all acting on their own, albeit with a shared goal of escaping. But when it's time to agonize some kids, they are all led by Circus Baby. Not to mention, by the time of Sister Location, they're all possessed by the MCI victims, which has caused them to behave erratically, which is why they require regular controlled shocks and maintenance. But once again, everything I've said so far is in regards to their original intent, before they were possessed. Now back to Circus Baby's blueprint. Earlier I said there's almost nothing noteworthy here. Almost. Look at the last bullet point. Emergency stop. What does that even mean? Stopping what exactly? If it's meant to stop her from killing a kidnapping victim in the event of an accident, then it's certainly failed. No, it has a different purpose. In every single FNAF game, the night ends at 6 a.m., when the player's shift is over. I assume they have to find some kind of opening to escape the building, since it's not like the animatronics power off at 6 a.m., but that is when they're legally allowed to leave. However, FNAF 4 is not a night shift. It takes place in a bedroom, and yet the night still ends at 6 a.m. There is nowhere to run home to, especially since this is all in an underground bunker. So what causes the animatronics to stop at 6 a.m.? That would be Circus Baby. Once she stops the experiments, the animatronics can all go back to their stages, or perhaps to parties where they will claim even more victims, and repeat the cycle. If you know FNAF 4, then you know that there are more threats than just the core 4 animatronics, and Plush Trap. On night 5, all the nightmares are replaced with one Nightmare Fredbear. Then on night 6, Nightmare Fredbear is replaced with just Nightmare. This guy is a bit more difficult to explain. Although we see him in what appears to be the agony chambers, it's likely he was never a part of the experiments at all. Wait, how can Nightmare not be a part of the experiments if we see him within the chambers firsthand in FNAF 4? Well, we need to talk about the FNAF 4 gameplay and how it differs from the Agony experiments. Five Nights at Freddy's 4 has always been the biggest pain point in the community. Up until Security Breach, at least. When the game first came out, its story seemed pretty simple. A child is having nightmares about Freddy's, and then he dies. But now, in the Big 26, we've got Nightmare Chambers, Agony, and a security logbook which seems to outright tell us that Michael Afton was the player of FNAF 4 and not his younger brother. So, how do we reconcile all of this information? I'm gonna go ahead and rip the band-aid right off. I believe that the nights we play through in the fourth game are adult Michael Afton's literal nightmares, and these nightmares are happening because of the time he spent within the Agony Chambers as a child. Most people probably know about how Michael draws a picture of Nightmare Fredbear inside of the security logbook. This plainly tells us that he witnessed the nightmares, and thus must have participated in the Agony experiments to some degree. Another piece of evidence is that the FNAF 1 Night 1 phone call plays backwards in the background ambience of FNAF 4. I don't like this point all that much, since it isn't clear whether or not the audio is diegetic, but if it is, then it does point to the idea that this is a dream where not everything makes sense. It also would give us a clear time frame for when these nightmares are occurring, that being sometime after the first night of FNAF 1, when Michael is an adult. Personally, I think Michael was always intended to be the FNAF 4 protagonist. The phone call secret certainly works in favor of this idea. Some people even claim the box would originally have had some item that would reveal the truth of the player. While I won't speak on any of that, I can bring forth some findings of my own. If we take a look at just the first 4 games' individual stories, we can see a pattern. Starting in FNAF 2, each game ends with some kind of twist that changes the context of the entire game. In 2, it's the paycheck that reveals the game takes place in 1987, and is in fact a prequel. In 3, it's the spring locking scene, which is when we realize we've been facing off against the killer the entire time. FNAF 4 seemingly has nothing like this, but if the box was meant to reveal that we are playing as the older brother the entire game, that would follow the pattern. However, we as a community couldn't figure it out, and so Scott chose to mix things up just a little bit. This is where the Agony Chambers come into play. But is there any real evidence that proves William put Michael through his experiments? Yes there is. And all of it comes directly in the next couple of games. In Sister Location, every night Michael watches a soap opera called The Immortal and the Restless. Many have tried to solve what this show could possibly be telling us. From Michael being represented by Clara due to no one noticing all the crazy, wacky stuff going on in his life, to the crying child being David Murray because Vlad says,
"Clara, the baby isn't mine."
However, these ideas have problems. Michael isn't Clara. Her being mentioned in the logbook is clearly just a reference. And the crying child being David Murray, I can't, man. Clearly Scott was not teasing the Mimic storyline in 2015. Even if he was, the bigger issue is the show repeatedly iterates the point that despite what Vlad says, the baby is his, so it can't be hinting that one of the Afton kids is a kidnapped child. And that is when it hit me. The Immortal and the Restless isn't telling us that Michael or the crying child aren't literally William's kids. It's telling us that he refused to acknowledge one of them as his child. It's not hard to pinpoint which one it is either. Michael is known for looking like his father. It's one of the few characteristics we know about him. So the vampire child Vlad refuses to claim as his own is a representation of William's disdain toward Michael. But once again, the community missed the hint. So in the next game, Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator, Scott threw in one final hint. In the minigame Midnight Motorist, we see William being very harsh to one of his sons. For many reasons I do not have time to get into, this is most likely Michael. At the end of the minigame, William says he will be sorry when he gets back. This is yet another example of William's hatred toward his eldest son, and it provides a clear picture of what caused him to put Michael into the agony chambers in the first place, running away to that place, which once again, I don't have the time to go over. You might be asking yourself why any of this matters for a theory about the fun times and nightmares. The reason is to isolate what we see in FNAF 4 from the agony experiments, because like I said before, Nightmare is not a part of the experiments. He is the mental manifestation of the agony Michael once went through in the chambers. That's why he is such an enigma, and he seems more personal to Michael. The most logical way I can describe the entity of Nightmare is trauma. So he's not a real Nightmare animatronic, and thus cannot be traced back to any of the fun times. That leaves us with one final animatronic to cross-reference, Nightmare Fredbear. But there aren't any more fun times. Who could possibly be the real face of Nightmare Fredbear? Yendo is my favorite Funtime animatronic, and I've always believed there's much more to him than people give him credit for. In fact, Yendo has been hiding a secret for nearly a decade. He's not some random Golden Freddy-esque Easter egg. No, he is the one and only Funtime Fredbear. Stay with me now. In Sister Location, there's one Funtime Springlock suit missing an endoskeleton, and one unnamed Funtime endoskeleton that's missing a suit. It also just so happens to share a naming scheme and design of Golden Freddy, with golden eyes. So it only makes sense for Yendo to be the endoskeleton to the suit, which is Funtime Fredbear. On top of all this, the suit is empty and located in the scooping room, implying that it got scooped at some point. We see Endo out of his suit in the Sister Location custom night, but if we focus only on the base game, we also see Yendo as a rare secret on night 3. And where is he? Funtime Auditorium, the room right next to the scooping room. To me, this is the most simple and satisfying answer to the identity of the Springlock suit. But to those of you who aren't convinced, listen to what Circus Baby has to say about the suit.
You're inside something that came from my old pizzeria. I don't think it was ever used. At least not the way it was meant to be used. Too dangerous.
So we have a Funtime animatronic that was never used at Circus Baby's Pizza World because it was too dangerous, but it was used in some other way. If we work off the precedent set by this very theory, then the alternative purpose for this suit has to be the agony experiments. If that is the case, it has to be Nightmare Fredbear, as he's the only Nightmare animatronic unaccounted for. And that's everything. Now it's your turn. Whether you love or hate this theory, please let me know your thoughts in the comments. I will try to respond to each and every one of them, especially if you have any questions or ideas. I'm happy to clarify and discuss. With that being said, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the future.